Hey guys, CG Inferno here today, and today we are going to be doing a review for Trails in the Sky Remake, which is probably like one of my most anticipated games of the year. I'm basically going to go over the story, the gameplay, difficulty, the voice acting, the music, and whether or not like they've done a good job with the remake or not. I did do a impressions video for the demo. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But this is basically like my full thoughts on the whole game after playing it for about 50 plus hours. So yeah, I've got a fair amount to talk about, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. So, Trails in the Sky. If you are a JRPG fan or a fan of the Trail series in general, this is essentially the first game in the series for probably like one of the longest running series in a long while that's like all connected. Like Final Fantasy is like its own different story, each arc and everything. It's been God knows how many years since it came out, man. It's been a very long time, and now we get in full 3D, which is always nice. I know some people love the 2D aspect of the game, which, you know, it still has its charm, but me, I'm more of a 3D person, but I can respect 2D as well. But yeah, it's been good. It's been very good. So the story in itself is one-to-one. There's like no changes, nothing, all of that stuff. Now, this might be a slight spoiler for people who have not played the latest one in the series, which is Trails Beyond the Horizon, as they call it in the West. But essentially, obviously, some people, if you saw the ending for that, you would think, okay, maybe something might have changed here, but that's not the case. This one is just a straight okay, it's not really one-to-one, because in terms of side content there's a bit more for like some of the characters, but in terms of the main story and everything, it is still one-to-one. You know, it's still the same stuff happening at the same time. Obviously some cutscenes are fleshed out a bit more, because, you know, Falcon have gone to that level of, you know, doing motion capture and everything from like what, Reverie is when they first started. Obviously they've improved it quite a bit from then. But yeah, story is still one-to-one. So I know a few people might have been concerned, because when it comes to remakes and stuff, they're like, oh no, the story's going to change. Prime example, Final Fantasy VII Remake, which a lot of people have a lot of stuff to say about it. For me, I enjoyed the remake so far, the remake and rebirth. I can see the concerns, but honestly, I think for that game, I will give my full take when part 3 comes out. But yeah, no worries on that part. You know, game is still the same. Side questing is still there. That for that most part, literally is still the same as the original. It's just now that you have a few extra side quests in the game. So these side quests are like for some of the characters you meet, for example, like basically like the braces that you meet throughout the game, and Tita as well. You basically just get a bit more character I wouldn't say character development, but just an insight into them a bit more than what we got in the original game, which I think is nice. You know, it's a nice feature to add in. Now these guys, they did say, the story can be like what, 70, I think someone said 70 hours, 100 hours, adding plenty of hours. Now that is only the case for me if you're talking to every, and I mean every NPC in the game, like when it updates, right? But me, I only talk to like the important ones for the most part, and I just go about my way, because I don't really want to be spending like half my day talking to NPCs. I think that is a bit too much. I know some people want to do it because they want to have the whole immersion, but me, nah. But yeah, in terms of story and side questing, it's essentially the same story, same cliffhanger ending as well, which back then, you know, it definitely caught a lot of people off guard. But when you compare it to like other games in the series, it's like child's play, you know, compared to what you see in the future games. But yeah, in terms of that part, you know, I think people don't need to be worried. I think a lot of people in this in the series will enjoy it. For the newcomers as well, I think they would enjoy it as well. Obviously, it's a slow starter for a fact, but once it does start to pick up, then, you know, you probably just get hooked onto it. But, you know, the demo is there for those that actually want to try it. But enough of me rambling. That is the story pretty much done and dusted. I enjoyed it, I loved it, and yeah, I give kudos to Falcon for just actually doing it in full 3D and fleshing it out. Now, in terms of gameplay is where the series has kind of changed. So, as I stated in my previous video for like the demo, the game essentially takes what they've done for the Calvard game, so since Daybreak 1, which they incorporate the hybrid system pretty much, where you have an action mode and a turn-based mode, or call it command mode, or whatever you want to say. That is still the case in this game. Obviously, it's changed from the Daybreak system a bit, but it essentially still works the same. Now, obviously, in terms of gameplay, they've modernized it, which I know when people hear the word modernized, they're like, oh, here we go, you know, typical woke stuff and all of that crap. But in this part, I guess if they wanted to do when they're doing the remake, they just thought, you know what, we might as well just take all the best stuff for the most part from our previous games and slap it into this one. Now, obviously, in terms of like lore-wise and stuff, some of the stuff don't really I wouldn't say they don't make sense, but I can see why it was added in. So, for example, the follow-up attacks or burst attacks or chain attacks, that wasn't really introduced until the Cold Steel series, right? Now, here they can do it, but at the same time, it's how do I even put this? Bit of an odd one. Like, I can see why they added it, but at the same time, I'm like, do they really need to add it in? But hey, I don't mind it, right? However, I do feel it makes some of the battles a bit easier than originally. But yeah, for the most part, gameplay is pretty good. You know, the action part is good, especially if you just want to like run down through the mobs quickly or get their stun gauge high before you go into command battle. The addition to overdrive as well, which is basically a guaranteed critical hit with your attack, your craft, or your art, is nice as well. It's not working like how Cold Steel 2 one was, because we all know that one was absolute bonkers to the point you would just obliterate enemies like with such ease. It was so bad. Well, I mean, in terms of balancing, it was bad, which is why we just never saw it again. But yeah, it's gameplay is being good. You know, I know people are worried about it. They're like, oh, you know, it's going action. We have ease for that. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It works for 3 games already in the Calvard arc, and it works here as well. You know, like if you don't want to use action, you don't have to. You know, literally you can start every encounter command if you really want to, but you're gonna do that, you're gonna be there for a very, very long time, in my opinion. But yeah, combat has been good. I'm curious to see what they'll do in the future for their like other games as well. Now, in terms of the world itself, it's expanded quite a bit, a lot. Well, in terms of just like what we originally had in the original games. You know, the original games, they weren't too big. You know, you just go from point A to point B. Had many places where you have to like different zones more or less for these regions or like areas you're going into. Now it's like all connected, so literally you can just explore like all the planes and stuff without having to like go to different loading screens and stuff. Although when you're going into buildings, it's not like Daybreak where it's just like seamless. This one is loading screens again, so I'm not too sure why they've gone back to that, but it's not the end of the world. But yeah, it was actually nice to see how they redone everything in 3D. You know, they've done a really good job. Like they've expanded, like it just felt good to explore everything again after like God knows how many years. So I give kudos to Falcon for that one. They really done a good job on that part. Obviously with that in mind, you know, they did take some new stuff from the new games into this one as well. So for example, NPCs, you know, once you've like exhausted all their talking options, they'll basically be kind of grayed out on the map. So technically if you go past a certain point in the story and you see that they're back again, they clearly have new dialogue. When you're going into the shops, it will be marked like red, so that basically signifies that there is new items to be crafted or whatever, or quartz or whatever, basically just to signify something new is in the shop, you know, something that you haven't gotten already. And then in terms of like side questing, all of that is just there. None of them is hidden anymore. You can see them on the map. That's a good thing. That's the same thing with like collecting the books as well. That you can see as well. That's been a thing since, I want to say Cold Steel 3 is when they started to introduce it, which is always nice because I kid you not, the amount of times I missed stuff in like older games, it annoyed me and I had to go replay the whole game again just to get the platinum trophy because I missed like one thing. Now, in terms of finding the chest and stuff in the game, that one, I think they took a step back on that one, because now in most games you would have a quartz that will allow you to see the enemies on the map and the treasure chest as well. This one, there is nothing for it, which is odd because in the original game it's there. Now, unless I am blind as a bat, right, I didn't see no quartz and I got all of them as well. So yeah, it's an odd one, that choice, but to be honest, you know, it's not hard to find the chest on the maps. Literally just go about everywhere, you would see them. They might pop on like a mini map as well if you're near enough to them. Yeah, that's there. Unfortunately, there's no treasure chest messages. That's gone, which is a shame. I think that was always a nice feature that I had from the older games, but who knows, maybe in the future game they might do it, or someone might mod it in. But to be honest, it's not the end of the world, but it would have been nice to have that in there. But yeah, in terms of like gameplay, welding, all of that stuff, done an excellent job. Now, in terms of difficulty in the game, Trails in the Sky, the original one, well, it had its notorious moments, especially on Nightmare. Although for the most part, the way the game worked back then, you could, I wouldn't say cheese, but you could definitely mitigate a lot of the issues. For example, back then when you used to cast like Clock Up and Clock EX up as well, literally it will stick throughout the whole fight. There was like no, oh, you have like 5 turns or something or anything. It's like once you put up, that is it, done. In this game, they've basically changed that, which, I mean, they've changed it since, God, when did they even change that? They changed that a very long time ago. So that essentially works the same. You just have it for a certain amount of turns, which, you know, in terms of balancing, I can understand. Now, I played on Nightmare, which I haven't done since, I would say, Daybreak 2. Yeah, Kai, I just didn't even bother. I don't know why, I just was not feeling it to do it then. Now, obviously me, I'm an unk at this point in time of my life, you know, I'm 31 right now. I'm just thinking, oh, do I even have it in me to do a Nightmare? But surprisingly, I actually got it done. Now, obviously, in typical fashion of Kiseki games, doing Nightmare at the start is probably like the most tedious thing ever, because literally everything just hits like a truck and you're essentially having to farm a bit to get better like quartz and stuff in the game, to like get better arts to be used. For example, Earth Wall and everything. Now, Earth Wall is probably like a godsend in this game. Now, it's not, in terms of Nightmare difficulty, enemies can still literally like shred through it, like no questions asked. A lot of the enemies in the game tend to have counters, so when you attack them, there's a chance they can hit you back. And I noticed on Nightmare, when they've done that, literally my shield was gone. Like they'll just shred it and they'll still even do damage to my HP as well. That's how much damage they were doing. Obviously, all the quartz and stuff are still the same for the original, like in terms of like the art list. In terms of like the quartz itself, some of them are gone. There have been like new ones added in. You also have the feature of enhancing the quartz. So for example, you've got defense and you've got defense plus, which will give you a bit more defense. Same with attack, strike, you know, the typical ones, right? So that's a new feature that's been added in. I didn't find them to be like game changer or anything. Like, you could still get away just using like the normal defense 3 or stuff end game, you know, it's not the end of the world. But it is there. You got U material there as well, which is used for enhancing like quartz, your accessories, your armor as well, which, to be honest, it did make quite a bit of a difference, because like the stats that you get for that was pretty bonkers for some of them. But in terms of boss fights and like the typical mobs that you find, like monster chests and all of that, for the most part, I think it was balanced well. Obviously I had the case of where 1 or 2 die and it's a snowball effect there and I can't even recover, so I just have to take the L and start it again. Yeah, even like the final dungeon, obviously, when you reach the final dungeon, you have everything, right? You're all good, but that was pretty much a breeze. Obviously enemies have a fair amount of HP, so still take a bit of time. Final bosses, I one-shot them. I remember it being way worse than the original, but I guess maybe that's just years of experience kicking in for that one. But yeah, difficulty has been good. Nightmare's not bad. It's definitely doable in your first playthrough. I mean, like every other game. I know there's like some elitists out there like, oh, it's still not hard and all of that stuff and blah blah blah, but you gotta think it from like the general point of view where not everyone has that knowledge for Nightmare, But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the balance for like most of the game, But on that part, I think Falcom done well. Hopefully they don't mess up in like future games, because they have a bit of habit to do that sometimes, but that just remains to be seen. But yeah, difficulty wise, game is pretty much your standard Kiseki, especially like higher difficulties. Obviously early on it's just always going to be rough, but yeah, it's still done well. I think everything to like balancing, well, I say that, but I guess if you play Kiseki, there's certain ways to like just mitigate everything, which that's what I kind of done at the end of the game. But yeah, for your average person, yeah, I think it'll be more than fine. So on that part, the difficulty is more than fine. Voice acting now is an interesting one. So obviously in the original Sky, it wasn't as voiced as this. This one is voiced quite a bit, which is always nice, because I feel like when you play these long JRPGs, they should be voiced for the most part. Now obviously this game being how long it is, they can't voice everything. Like that's just an absurd amount of money to be used for that, right? But for the most part, I think I played an English VA, right? Which I know some people are gonna be like, oh my god. I'm just like, bro, it's not the end of the world, that's like my main language, yeah, I think the characters, they've done a really good job. I was very, very impressed with Richard's VA. He done a really good job of doing Richard, so I can't wait to see how he handles him in the future games as well. But yeah, I think everyone done a good job. Obviously Estelle's voice is I guess it's just because of her character is a bit of an odd one, because everyone else's one more or less fits. Estelle's one is a bit I don't know, I was a bit 50-50 on that one, right? Maybe it might grow me a bit more like as like the titles go like when second comes out maybe, but even from like previous games where she appeared, it's always been an odd one, but I think it's just because of how her character is, compared to like everyone else. But I felt everyone done a good job of doing their characters. Lawrence was good, Martha was good as well, though we all know we hate that captain for obvious reasons in the game. But yeah, I say they've done a very good job. Now I'll probably go and play in Japanese later on just to hear like the newer voice actors. But yeah, I think for the most part they done a really good job. Now in terms of the music, obviously Sky OST was probably like, I wouldn't say the greatest, but it definitely had a good amount of tracks, and I feel that in this game they've done a good job for the majority of them. Obviously Silver Will being one, Sophisticated Fight I thought was pretty decent. Final Dungeon one was definitely a banger for me, honestly. I've always liked that one. But yeah, I think OST wise they actually done a good job. This is I say this is back when like Falcon had it in the bag when it came to their songs, because I won't lie, some of the future games like Cold Steel 4, it definitely took a dip in quality there for some of the tracks. I think in Daybreak or Coward, I'll say some of them have kind of gone up a bit, but you know, it's not the same as like the Libra or Crossbow arcs. You know, that's where I feel they're peaked. But for the most part, they've done a great job on the OST. So when you guys do hear it, yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys think about that one. But yeah, I am done with my whole impressions of playing the game. So the game took me about 50 hours to be done. I've done all the side quests, I've done all the book entries, done all the monster entries, got all the BP requirements, played on Nightmare. Obviously I can't get every trophy right because one is actually tied to New Game Plus. It's basically beating the final boss where it's at level 100, which I think the max level in the game is like 120, which is crazy to even think about, right? And then you got the whole report section where you can like get rewards and stuff as well. That I've done for the most part. I think the most of I miss is just like battle stuff, so like, oh, use this amount of S-class, or there's just this amount of brave attacks and stuff as well. So yeah, if you're going New Game Plus, that's probably going to be your main things to do for platinum, unless you've been grinding the demo out absurdly. But yeah, overall I would say Falcom has done a great job on the remake. I think this is pretty much a blueprint on how to do a remake. Not throwing no shots at others, but you know, when others do remakes, stuff tend to like deviate from the original one. But this one, instead of like deviating on anything, they've actually done the same and they've included even more stuff to it as well. So yeah, that is my impression. Honestly, if you're a JRPG fan, get into this series. Probably one of the best series I've played in a long time. And funny enough, I just picked this series up on a whim back in the day, you know. Now I know there's a whole thing about playing it in order, which I think should be done, but I still feel that you can start at certain arcs. Obviously you're going to miss a lot of context, right? But I feel if anything, right, me personally, I started at Cold Steel, right? And that's because back then, I wouldn't say the games weren't available, but let's be honest, you had Sky 1, 2, third wasn't even out in the West back then. Crossbow was nowhere to be seen, and then you just jumped straight into Cold Steel series, which didn't help, you know. But ideally, personally, I'll say start from this, then wait for the second remake as well. If you really can't wait, you know, you can always buy the originals. They are there to be played. They are still good to play as well, unless you really like 3D spirits and all of that stuff, or models I should say. But yeah, honestly, great game, great remake, great music. VA, they done for the most part a good job. Gameplay good, difficulty good, balancing good for the most part. And yeah, it's literally an all-around good game, you know, very good game. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my, I guess, impressions on the game, my impressions of finishing it and everything. Definitely a bit more of a free flow and talking one. I'm curious to what you guys think about the game, whether you played the demo or not, whether you're not seeing stuff floating on the internet, because you know some people, you know, just wanted to upload everything. You know, I'm usually that guy, but you know, at this time I was like, nah, I'll stick to what they said. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. Let me know what you guys think down below about, you know, the whole remake in itself, and I will see you guys later.